It's been nearly 2 years since the launch of Marvel's Avengers, and while I haven't really followed up with any content reviews for the like of their separate operations for things like Clinton Case expansions and War for Wakanda, which was the biggest of all the current expansions, I really never felt the need or was ever really compelled to do so. I want to set the record straight here when it comes to this game. I enjoy playing it. There isn't any other game right now that offers what this game has given what it is. A superhero multiplayer looter. And even though that'll most definitely change in the coming months with things like Gotham Knights, Avengers, for better or worse, is what we have at the moment, and while I definitely have my issues with the game, and we'll talk about those at great length here, I am glad we have it. So no, this video isn't being made as a hit piece on an already easy target of a game, it's just being made to further emphasize my current issues with a game that has a great foundation, but lacks any structure to really hold it above ground, especially in the eyes of the public. If you're wondering what it is about this game that keeps me coming back, it's quite simply the characters. Like I said in my original review, they're all unique and a ton of fun to play, and even the characters I don't particularly care for, aka the Hawks, have great feel to them and help carry over that power fantasy you want. And currently, although it took way too long to get there, we're actually getting pieces of loot that have cool and unique properties to them that actually make it worth chasing over, assuming you play this game and care about that sort of thing. These are steps in the right direction, and while the pandemic has certainly not helped the development pipeline for this game, there are glaring issues that, pandemic or not, should have been addressed a long time ago, and kind of in some way are being addressed now. The biggest thing that irks me about this game, 100%, is its mission structure for online missions. This is what I find to be the biggest problem, more so than bad cosmetics or a lack of heroes or villains. This has been a major bone of contention with me for so many reasons, not just because it's boring, but because it makes it so much harder to recommend this game to friends when they see gameplay of the online component and all it is someone standing on a circle until a meter fills up, or any other type of needling busywork that is about as generic can be for this type of game. You have a game with the Avengers, Earth's mightiest heroes. When you think of these characters, you think of these giant splash panel fights in the comics, or legions of enemies charging at them with the Avengers mopping the floor with the opposition in the movies. You don't think of, well, the Hulk is just going to stand in a circle until a meter fills up. These missions undersell what it's like to be playing as these characters under these circumstances. This feels more like what street-level heroes would be doing instead of, say, the heavy hitters like the Avengers, and because of that, there's a feeling of zero stakes. What are we doing? Saving a city from a fascist regime? Repelling an invasion? Taking back Avengers Tower from AIM? No. We're rescuing two folks from an AIM prison cell and then we're immediately leaving right after. Yay? Think about the main campaign as an example. There's a mission where AIM hijacks the Chimera and has it set on a collision course with the eastern seaboard that would essentially crater it. This has all of the Avengers that are currently assembled go all hands on deck to try to prevent this from happening because the consequences of it happening would be dire, and so creates a feeling of stakes. Up until the most recent edition of the Wakandan raid, there are no missions in this game that come even close to capturing that spirit, outside of maybe the Monica Rappaccini boss fight. And I'll give credit where credit is due. The raid is actually a fantastic piece of content because it's big and bold and requires genuine teamwork, something that virtually all of the other missions don't, and you can see in real time how things are going with a monstrous claw and how it could affect all of Wakanda. If we had more missions with even a fraction of the stakes you get during the raid, this would alleviate many of my issues. You don't really get that, however, with any of the missions in this game. You do a few objectives and then you abruptly leave. There is no teamwork required for a large majority of the game's online missions, and the game's few attempts to actually try that are usually holding something open so someone else can smash it, which doesn't really look or feel all that super heroic now, does it? We don't get to see what our actions influence, the fallout of our mission passing, the damage we may have caused, public opinion or perception either gaining or straining. Instead, what we get is a pat on the back by whoever the mission assigner was, and then we're right back to the Quinjet to scurry on to the next selectable mission with subpart loot, usually as a reward. It's because of this that despite there being different biomes to explore, everything feels the same. There is virtually no difference in functionality between the Utah Badlands and the eastern seaboard outside of looks because all of the missions, barring maybe a few iconic ones, have you doing the same exact thing to the same exact results. Even the missions where you start out outside only to end up in certain interiors all look the same, so what difference does it make where we start? This is where the iconic missions really excel because they're the only ones in the game that have any satisfying outros to show you the difference you're actually making, even if these objectives may stay the same during the entire mission. And granted, not every mission needs these, there is a place for the smaller scale ones, but having something to help these characters feel more heroic outside of a mission pass chime at the end of an objective being met goes a long way, considering just how many missions don't have outros, vastly outnumbering the ones that do. Furthermore, and I can't emphasize this enough, how awkward it is that missions just end abruptly, and then you're just back to the Quinjet again. I think for certain missions this is okay, particularly the drop zones, which are just usually a quick smash and grab, but a large majority of them just kind of leave you in a really awkward spot. Why not have extractions be part of missions where you have to deal with a mini horde mode as you wait out the Quinjet's arrival? In fact, there's a mission like this in the Wasteland, but it's the only one in the entire game that does so, and it's not really a horde mode where surviving is key. You just have to take everyone out, and then you're given the all clear to extract like pretty much every other mission in the game. Or if you're infiltrating an aim base, why not cause it to self-destruct instead of continuing to capture data like 95% of the other missions? There is one mission where you can do this called Rocket's Red Glare in the Utah Badlands, and it takes you into space, into a location that's 100% a copy of the Space Shop mission location on the eastern seaboard. Or maybe it's the other way around. The point is, the mission actually has you self-destructing an aim space satellite, which is pretty neat, and it's about the only mission in the online portion of the game where you do something that feels like you're an actual credible threat to AIM because you're taking out a major installation, as opposed to your 1 millionth robot or super tank. As you're escaping, you see and hear the entire place exploding, with the game giving you a minute or so to escape before everything goes boom. This is great and captures what I'm talking about in terms of stakes. A mission that makes you feel like, okay, we can't screw this up. But as you reach the space elevator to clear out, guess what happens? The mission just ends, and then you're back to the Quinjet. Why? Why not reward the players for the fruits of our labor? We're being told it's going to self-destruct, we see evidence that it's going to self-destruct, but we never actually get to see it self-destruct. How cool would it have been taking the space elevator back down to Earth with a satellite in the background of space being destroyed as we go down? Where are the set pieces to make things feel epic? Things like this go a long way into making missions feel impactful, and sharing those experiences with other players is key to keeping them around, creating memories and moments where you feel like badasses but also superheroes. Missions that feel like they need the Avengers, missions that have stakes worthy of the Avengers, with outcomes that reflect that journey. Busy work missions are fine, they have a place in the game, but they shouldn't make up the large majority of them, and that's the big issue. How many times can we sit in a circle and wait out the clock, or hold 3 objectives and wait out the clock, or take out 5 armored enemies over and over and over again? My brother and my niece both really enjoy playing this game because he loves playing as the Hulk and ragdolling enemies around, and she loves Kamala's polymorphing abilities and high-fiving goons into walls. But no matter how good the gameplay may be, they don't stick around long enough because there isn't anything to do that feels satisfying once they've gotten their kicks in with the character kits. Again, I'll give credit where it's due with the raid and the beating the odds villain sector. They are both great examples of missions that feel worthy of these characters. It's a step in the right direction for a game that has for a long time felt directionless, but 2 out of 90 is not great odds, and while Avengers will still have content coming out with a new hero inbound and the infamous cloning labs finally making its debut, I am admittedly excited, but also very worried. It seems like for the most part a hard look was taken at the mission structure, and considerable work was done to try and make these newer missions feel a bit more dynamic at least, with an emphasis on teamwork, but not every mission can be like the raid or beating the odds, and with Square Enix seemingly thumbing their nose at Crystal Dynamics at every single turn they get on their way out, who knows how much support the studio will actually put into Avengers, and how much we'll actually get that's different. Regardless of such, I can recognize the efforts put forth by the development team. Like I said earlier, the newer gear is actually really interesting, and for the first time since I've played this game, I'm reading up on the stats and perks the pieces come with that aren't just damage buffs because they actually matter now in a significant way. Thank the Lord for Alex, because this was badly needed and has given me new incentive to play, as well as the addition of shipments. But we desperately need missions that complement this gear. We need villains that aren't just Taskmaster and Abomination being recycled in the same exact mission, with the only thing changing is who you fight in the end and the lines that they may say. Newer characters may spark interest in your game and may bring a few curious new players around, but if there isn't anything substantial to do in your game, who's going to want to stick around?